Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Throne of Steel based on novel. So let's start. The multicolored spiral landed on the gorilla's head and immediately turned into countless multicolored lights, making their way into its body. The little gorilla stood unmoving with a blank face, its body filled up with multicolored glosses. What Long Houchen had declared he was having a try about was mainly about comprehension. After his cultivation had made such a qualitative leap, comprehending nothing was impossible given his level of understanding. Never look down on that multicolored spiral. That's his post-evolution domain's domain technique, an extraordinary life seal. Long Houchen didn't know how long this seal could last, but after it entered the gorilla's body, he found out that all its aura of life was assimilated by his seal. Should no one get rid of this seal within 7 days, it would make the life alteration of this gorilla permanent. In other words, really turn it back into an infant. Only by restarting from scratch would it gain the chance of reaching this boundary anew. Withdrawing the domain, although Long Houchen felt somewhat tired, the happiness in his eyes stood with no doubt. He had gained his second domain technique, and this domain technique was truly miraculous. In some meaning, it could determine a person's age, life, or death. To be in control of life, what kind of cheat was that? The young girl Cece couldn't help but stare at the scene in front of her eyes. Although she remained vigilant toward Long Houchen, his domain's power of nature and life had unwittingly raised some feelings of cordiality in her. It should be okay. I have sealed the growth trajectory of his life. His body has been restricted to this state, and would only return to its original power after growing back. And that will be a long process. Thank you for your benevolence. May the lords of nature praise you. Cece gazed at Long Houchen and said very earnestly. Long Houchen seemed to want to say something as the emotionless voice from before once again sounded out within him. Second mission opened. Assist Cece in rescuing her family, and moreover, earn her trust and have her take the initiative of offering her treasure. Failure of the mission will cause the test to fail. Although Long Houchen was already thinking that rescuing Cece was just the start of the trial, after accepting the mission, he still couldn't help but be alarmed. Easton's king that Cece had spoken about was absolutely the most terrifying existence of this plane. For one of his house pets to be so strong, how could the person himself reach such a degree of power? Even if he didn't reach a level such as the demon god emperors, at least he would be a match for the likes of the moon demon god, or star demon god. Such a degree of strength was nothing the current Long Houchen could contend with, especially when he's unable to get Haoyue's assistance. Cece, what are your plans from now on? In the previous conversation, they had exchanged names with each other. Cece's expression darkened, her cute face showing a helpless expression. I don't know either. That devil is just too powerful, my family, saying so, she couldn't help but cry again. Long Houchen furrowed his brows and declared, stop crying for now. It won't solve anything. Tell me in detail, how many clans are there in Easton? Among the lot, some are intimately related to Easton's king, and some are enemies. Although I am thinking of assisting you, I'm still afraid our strength is not sufficient. Saying so, his thoughts only got even more serious. On one side, Long Houchen was standing as an onlooker, but on the other side, Cece had just witnessed his strength, particularly his control over life going through this mystical force. But even after seeing these, she still hadn't asked from him the favor of helping. This proved either that she didn't trust him, or that she didn't believe him to be a threat for Easton's king. Long Houchen was more inclined to believe the latter. After all, he had already rescued her, and although they didn't have a deep contact with each other, his light god physique and the incomparable purity of his light, even if he couldn't gain Cece's complete trust, at least it wouldn't make her apprehensive. Cece silently shook her head, no. Because I have found that thing. I have already caused devastating damage to my clan. I won't give it to that devil, whom I want to destroy. Even at the cost of my life, at worst I will be joining my family's side. Seeing Cece's eyes gradually becoming filled with a resolute look, the first thing that came to Long Houchen's mind was not his own mission, but admiration for this young girl. She was not only kind-hearted, but also courageous. She may not be wise enough, but for such a beautiful girl to still have this kind of character meant she felt extremely attractive to any man. Long Houchen nodded lightly. I can comprehend that you are unwilling to implicate someone else. But that way, I'm afraid your family would hardly make it through alive. Cece replied in distress, perhaps, but that is fate. So Long, you have saved my life, and I am unable to return the favor. This Cece was originally about to die. If you give in, I am willing to offer my clean self to you. This could be considered a repayment for the favor of saving my life. Anyway, this body will come clean again in my next life. Long Houchen jumped in start, his ears immediately reddening. If he was told this back, when he was not very aware of matters between males and females, he wouldn't give it much thought. But just before taking the test, Caia and him had just crossed the line. That was the first time he had experienced that beautiful act. Cece was moreover such a beauty, her white clothing being completely insufficient to cover up her magnificent curves. When facing a beautiful woman, anyone would show some reaction. One could, for instance, show admiration, have dirty thoughts, or get awkward and embarrassed. That last was exactly Long Houchen's case. Cece, don't be like that. In front of Cece's expression of distress, as she looked about to take him under her embrace, Long Houchen really felt somewhat at a loss. Grabbing her shoulders in his hands in a hurry, he forced her into a certain distance from him. Cece raised her head to look at Long Houchen, her eyes hazy with tears. So Long, am I not to your liking? Or are you afraid of getting involved with me? My body is really pure, and has never been in any man's hands. Hearing all she said, Long Houchen immediately felt his hands loosen as if electrocuted, as he forced a smile. Listen to me, Cece. I just happened to be here to save you, and had no intention to get repaid in such a manner. Moreover, right because I happened to encounter such a matter, I was thinking of helping out. I may not be capable enough to contend against a powerful opponent such as Eastern's king. But I will still give it a try. If we are lucky enough, maybe your family can be saved. Even if we are unable to succeed, you mustn't renounce living so lightly. There is always a hope for the living, but nothing can be done for the dead. Cece silently nodded, thank you, Sir Long. I really don't know how I can thank you. As you have saved my life, you can have my body anytime you want. Long Houchen waved his hands repeatedly in embarrassment. Don't be like that, Cece. Let's first think up a way to rescue your family. Where did you say Eastern's king lives? Are you able to draw out a map? Cece nodded, yes. Immediately, she crouched in front of Long Houchen, drawing a detailed map using branches on the ground. Her drawing was pretty good, and as she drew she also told Long Houchen about the arrangements around Eastern's king's residence. Eastern's king doesn't have his own army, but wields a formidable power of nature. At least 10 magical beasts of that previous gorilla's grade serve as his house pets. If we want to break past them into his cave, then we must avoid its guards. My family is very possibly in the deepest part of this cave. Long Houchen calmly listened to her arrangements, continuously nodding, and engraving her words in his memories. Cece's body frequently let out a thin fragrance entering Long Houchen's nose, different from the fragrance emitted from Caia's body. The sweetness from Cece's body was imbued with the aura of life, just like a flower full of enticement, fresh and clean, elegant and magnificent. However, Long Houchen showed an unflustered attitude. Neither his eyes, nose, mouth, nor his heart paid any special attention to Cece. The map and arrangements are such. Cece revealed to Long Houchen a sweet smile, apparently having already suppressed her pain compared to before. When she smiled, she truly was a peerless beauty. Long Houchen gave it some thought. I suggest scouting the area first, to search for some specific information. If there is a chance, I will be entering the cave to search for your relatives. Remain outside in a safe spot, ready to provide support. How could that be okay? How could I leave you to take care of my matters all alone? Cece shook her head firmly. I will be entering with you. Back when my father was still alive, he had formerly taken me to Eastern's king's cave, so I'm more familiar than you with that place. And Sir Long, I disagree with your plan. By attempting to scout the area, it would be very possible to inadvertently alert the enemy. In case Eastern's king gets on guard, it will get even nearer to impossible for us to succeed. The king has a habit. He takes a nap every day at noon, and for about a duration of 1 hour. In this process, he will be in a very, very deep sleep, but will have his body protected with a divine tool. His house pets will be guarding him extremely closely at this time, but I believe that this will be our best chance. If we can avoid those house pets as we enter his cave, we will definitely be able to save my family. Listening to Cease's organized and meticulous analysis, Long Houchen had a surprised look on his face. It seems that you were prepared for this a long time ago. The smile on Cease's pretty face stiffened, and she sighed softly. With sadness in her eyes, she said, "Ever since my home was destroyed, I've been thinking about rescuing my family all the time, racking my brains. The method I mentioned earlier should be the most feasible one." At this point, Cease suddenly kneeled in front of Long Houchen. Her actions were too sudden, and immediately gave Long Houchen a fright. "Miss Cease, what are you doing?" Long Houchen wanted to help her up, but was stopped by Cease's hand. She gave Long Houchen a teary-eyed look, and said, "Sir Long, after we enter the cave of Eastern's king, I have a request. If we are discovered, I will take the initiative to lead him away. You must take this opportunity to rescue my family. If I can exchange my life for my family's peace, then Cease will die a happy death. Even if my soul goes to heaven, I will never forget your kindness." As she said so, she was bowing to Long Houchen. Long Houchen naturally couldn't let her really bow down. He hurried to support her. "Cease, just leave the matter of luring the enemies to me. First of all, I don't know your family, and even if I do, they might not want to go with me. Second, my cultivation is stronger than yours. I'm much more likely to get Eastern's king out of here than you are. Besides, I'm a man. How can I let you take such a risky action? However, I am a little worried. How can we enter the cave of Eastern's king without being noticed by his pets?" Cease thought about it and said, "There is a holy medicine in our clan. A holy medicine named lilac intoxicating. After igniting it, one would be able to put the person who smelled it into a delirious state in a short period of time. As long as without any attack, it would take them at least an hour before they woke up. If we can find this holy medicine, we won't have to kill. He would then be able to safely enter the cave of Eastern's king. If I remember correctly, there might be lilac intoxicating in a nearby cave, but I'm not sure if it's mature." Long Houchen nodded. "In that case, let's go look for it. Do you remember the exact location of that cave?" Cease thought about it for a moment and said, "I can try and thank you." As she spoke, she released a pair of ice-blue spiritual wings. With a sweet smile, she spread out her wings, flying in a certain direction. She unconsciously gave a glance to the golden wings on Long Houchen's back. Her beautiful eyes filled with envy. Long Houchen gave her a look. Smiling, he spread his wings and followed. Cease flew in the air first, but she didn't fly too high. She stuck close to the treetops and looked around for a while, before looking at the bright sunlight in the sky. With a wave of her hand to Long Houchen, she chose a direction to fly in. The two of them flew for around a quarter of an hour, before descending with Long Houchen, landing beside an especially tall redwood tree. Under this big tree, there was a small hill. Cease said happily, "It should be here. A redwood tree is the best coordinate. If I remember correctly, lilac intoxicating is growing in the cave behind this hill." As she spoke, she flew forward at lightning speed, bringing Long Houchen to the other side of the hill. On the surface, there seemed to be no difference from the previous ones. However, Long Houchen used his senses to scan it, discovering that on the surface of the vegetation, there was a hole that was as tall as a human, extending downwards. Moreover, he discovered that there seemed to be a magic array at the entrance of this cave. The reason why he couldn't see the situation inside was because this magic array acted as a magic barrier, and even had extraordinary defensive strength. Long Houchen's soul strength had already reached the state of minute subtlety. Under such close inspection, he definitely wouldn't feel wrong. Cease stood in front of the cave and pointed her right hand at the cave. Suddenly, a white light flashed, and the bushes in front of her slowly opened up. Cece turned around and gave a sweet smile to Long Houchen. After finding out about this place last time, in order to prevent the beasts from knocking on the holy medicine, I left a little illusion here. Long Houchen nodded. I will guard the entrance for you. You can go inside to find lilac intoxicating. Yes. Cece agreed and quickly walked into the cave. Long Houchen shut his eyes, letting the powerful soul force spread out at great speed, sensing the surrounding changes. His right hand was placed on a large tree, and his body was glinting with 7 colors. Through his evolving domain, he was increasing the strength of his soul, and in addition, he was using the profound meaning of controlling the progress of his life to enhance his soul perception through the natural environment of the tree. Not long after, Cece came out of the cave with a herb in her hands. Beneath the herb was soil, and under it was a piece of cloth. The herb was exposed to what looked like a 1-foot-long plant. It was pink in color, and had 3 clusters of small white flowers on top. It really did look like lilac. Seeing Long Houchen supporting the big tree with his hand, Cece hurried over and said, "Sir Long, I succeeded. Look, this is lilac intoxicating." Long Houchen's reaction was somewhat sluggish, and after hearing her voice, he stopped for a moment before turning his head to look at her. Looking at the lilac intoxicating in Cece's hand, Long Houchen asked, "Is this herb enough?" Cece nodded and said, "Lilac intoxicating's intoxicating roots can dispel its hallucinatory toxicity. At that time, we only need to make up a small portion of the population. You've just had a fierce fight with that pet. Why don't we rest for a day, and then go to King Easton's cave tomorrow?" Although she said so, the anxiety in her eyes could not be hidden. Long Houchen replied, "If you can help them to the end, let's set out now." According to the task given to him by the divine throne of eternity and creation, not only did he have to help Cece rescue her family, he also had to gain her trust, thus obtaining the treasure that would exterminate her entire clan. At the beginning, when he received this mission, Long Houchen was in a very difficult situation. The previous task, even if Long Houchen didn't succeed, he could at least try his best to finish it. However, the latter was contrary to his principles. But now, he seemed to have found some clues regarding the mission. Cece gave a deep bow to Long Houchen, her beautiful big eyes filled with mist. "Brother Long, we have known each other for such a short time, yet you are doing your utmost to help me. I remember this love. If we succeed in this trip, I will repay you 10-fold, 100-fold. As long as I can save my family, I am willing to give you the job of horse or cow." After saying this, she immediately turned around and flew away, as if she was afraid she wouldn't be able to control her emotions. However, she didn't rush out of the treetop, instead dodging the trees in the forest. Although Cece's cultivation was inferior to Long Houchen's, she was a mage of the 8th step, so her flying speed was very fast. Moreover, her flying skills were quite impressive, but the speed she was traversing through the forest did not affect her speed much. As for Long Houchen, he wouldn't have a problem either. Back when he was on the 2nd floor of the Tower of Eternity, he had fully trained his flying skills. With his powerful perception, he followed a 30-meter distance behind Cece, maintaining an equal distance from her. After flying at high speed for over half an hour, Cece chose a very covert route. During this time, Long Houchen could sense several large villages through his spiritual perception. However, they were all cleverly avoided by Cece. She clearly knew the location of these villages. In the distance, a green mountain completely covered in vegetation appeared in Long Houchen's perception. The mountain wasn't too high, not even a kilometer, but after reaching this place, the life energy of nature was at least 3 times richer than when he first arrived in this world. Cece slowed down, coming to Long Houchen's side, and said in a low voice, "Big brother Long, from now on, we have to restrain our breath. King Easton must not have even started his nap yet. His senses were extremely powerful. We must be careful." His cave was halfway up Easton, not far ahead. "As we are approaching Easton, I'm going to light the lilac intoxicating." As she said so, she handed a thin root to Long Houchen, indicating that he could put it in his mouth. Long Houchen did as she said. As the root entered his mouth, he immediately felt a cooling sensation spread throughout his entire body, giving him a comfortable feeling. Cece advanced very carefully, and Long Houchen's body emitted a faint golden light, covering both him and Cece within it. Cece gave him a surprised look, because she discovered that she seemed to have turned into a ray of sunlight. Other than the pure light of the sun, there was no other trace of light. Long Houchen revealed a smile, pointing ahead, hinting that she could set off. After flying for about a quarter of an hour, she directly retracted her spiritual wings and landed on the ground. Although she was a mage, with the nourishment of spiritual energy for her body, her movements could still be considered agile. Long Houchen took the initiative to lead her, opening up a path filled with vegetation, making it a bit difficult for her as a mage to walk. Forward 50 meters, turn left 10 meters, continue forward 20 meters, then turn right 15 meters. Slightly slower. Behind Long Houchen, Cece kept directing him forward. Long Houchen was extremely cooperative, and under her nervous gaze, he didn't make the slightest mistake. However, he was still surprised by how familiar she was with the holy mountain of Eastern. This video will end here.